All right, let's get right into it. If you're building anything serious with React, you know state management is, well, it's a battleground. You pick the right tool, your app is slick, it's fast, it just works. But you pick the wrong one? Oh man, you're heading for a world of hurt. Bugs, performance nightmares, the whole deal. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise. This is your 2025 guide to picking the right weapon for the job. Let's do this. So does this look familiar? You know the feeling, right? You spin up a new project, npx, create React app, and bam. First big decision, how are we going to handle state? And your brain just freezes. Context? Redux? Is Zustand still the cool kid? The choices are just overwhelming. And that fear of making the wrong call, of painting yourself into a corner, is absolutely real. We've all been there staring at the screen. But before we can even talk about the solutions, we gotta go back to the beginning. We have to talk about the one problem that started this whole mess. And here it is, prop drilling. I honestly think of this as the original sin of building complex apps in React. Just picture it. You've got some piece of state way up in your main app component, right? And some little button buried 5, 6, 7 levels deep needs that state. So what do? You pass it as a prop. And then you pass that prop to the next component, and the next, and the next. These components in the middle, they don't care about that data at all. They're just couriers passing a message they can't even read. It's messy, it's inefficient, and trying to refactor that code later, it's an absolute nightmare. This right here is the whole reason we even need to have this conversation.
Okay, so section 1, the built-in solution, React context. This is always the first step, right? When you have a problem like prop drilling, you look for the tool React itself gives you, and that tool is the context API. The whole idea is to basically create a wormhole for your data. You can just teleport your state from a provider at the top straight down to any component that needs it, skipping all those layers in between. It sounds perfect, and for some things, it is. But, and there's always a but, it's got some serious limitations. And this really breaks it down. Context has two totally different personalities. On the left, you've got its happy place. This is for data that doesn't change much. Think about user authentication state or a dark mode theme toggle. You set it once, and it mostly just sits there. For that stuff, context is beautiful. It's clean, simple, perfect. But then you look at the right side, the danger zone. The problem with context is that when anything in that context value changes, every single component that's listening to that context re-renders, every single one, whether it cares about the specific piece of data that changed or not. If you're dealing with data that's updating all the time, this will absolutely crush your app's performance.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Look at the numbers. This is what happens under pressure. That bar on the far left, that's a single, big context trying to handle an update across 1,000 components. A sluggish 350 milliseconds. Yikes. Now, you can be clever and split up your contexts. That's the middle bar. And that helps. It gets you down to 120 milliseconds, which is okay. But then look all the way to the right. That's Zustand, sitting pretty at just 85 milliseconds. The data doesn't lie. Once your state gets complex or updates frequently, that performance penalty from context becomes a massive problem you just can't ignore. All right, so if context is out for anything high performance, where does that leave us? Let's move on to our next contender, the enterprise standard Redux toolkit. For years, the default answer to any state problem was just Redux. It was the undisputed heavyweight champion. But let's be honest, if you've been doing this for a while, the word Redux probably brings back some not so fond memory. Yeah, this quote right here, this is the one. This is the ghost that haunts Redux. We all remember it, right? The endless sea of action type constants, the action creator functions, the giant reducer files with massive switch statements, just to update one little piece of state. You'd write 5 files just to get one thing done. It was a chore, it was tedious, and for years that reputation was totally deserved. But I'm going to say something controversial. That is not the Redux we have today in 2025. And this is why. Meet Redux Toolkit, or RTK. You can think of this as the Redux team listening to every single complaint developers had for years and fixing them one by one. The whole point of RTK is to kill the boilerplate. Store setup is a one-liner now with configure store. But the real hero, the absolute game changer, is create slice. This one function literally handles all of it for you. It creates your reducers, your action types, and your action creators all at once behind the scenes. All those old pain points, gone. They've been hunted down and eliminated. So where does that leave Redux Toolkit today? What's the final verdict? Well, it's the battle-hardened, enterprise-grade solution. Think about it.
When you have a massive application, dozens of developers all working on the same code base, you need structure. You need strict patterns, predictability, and the ability to debug anything. And for that, with its amazing dev tools and clear data flow, RTK is still the king of the castle. No question.
But what if you're not building a giant enterprise app? What if you hear words like strict patterns and structure, and you just want something that gets out of your way? Well, that brings us to our final contender, the modern favorite, Zustand. This little library has absolutely taken the React world by storm, and for a very good reason. It's all about getting that same power, but with way, way less ceremony. I mean, seriously, look at this. This slide is basically the entire tutorial for Zustand. Step 1, you create a store, which is really just a custom hook. Step 2, you use that hook in any component that needs the state. That's it. I'm not kidding. That is the whole process. There are no providers to wrap your app in. There are no action types to define, no boilerplate at all. It's just so simple, it feels like a breath of fresh air after years of complexity. Let's put this head to head. The key philosophical difference here is that Zustand is hooks first. That's its primary API. And that means you can get rid of that provider wrapper that we're all so used to seeing in Redux and context apps. You know, the one you have to wrap your entire application in? That's gone. This is huge. It means your state is decoupled from your component tree. Plus, because you're using selectors right in the hook, components only re-render when the exact piece of state they care about changes. This gives you incredible performance right out of the box. Okay, so we've met the three main players on the field. We have React Context, the built-in option. We have Redux Toolkit, the enterprise champion, and we have Zustand, the sleek, modern challenger. So, how in the world do you actually choose? Well, let's get to the final verdict. We're going to create a simple, data-driven framework to help you make the right call every time. All right, let's look at the tail of the tape, the raw numbers. First up, bundle size. How much code are you adding to your app? Look at Zustand. It's tiny, a real featherweight. Compare that to RTK, which is much heavier. Then, update times. We saw this earlier, but Zustand is just faster. And memory usage? Again, it's incredibly efficient. So if you're just looking at the raw performance metrics, for the vast majority of apps, Zustand has a pretty clear edge. But here's the thing, raw performance isn't everything. Context matters. So let's run through some real-world scenarios. Scenario 1, you're working on a huge enterprise application. I'm talking banking software, a massive e-commerce site with a team of 50 developers. For this, my recommendation is, without a doubt, Redux Toolkit. The structure, the opinionated patterns, the powerful middleware, these aren't just features, they're guardrails. They keep a large team from stepping on each other's toes and keep the codebase sane and scalable. Okay, now for scenario 2, which is probably where a lot of us live. You're building a medium-sized SaaS dashboard. It's complex, there's a lot of data, but your team is maybe 5 to 10 people. This, my friends, is Zustand's sweet spot. It's got all the power you need, the performance is fantastic, and the lack of boilerplate means your team can just move fast. It's the perfect sweet spot between power and a great developer experience. For most new projects today, this is my go-to recommendation. And finally, scenario 3. Let's say you're building a pretty simple content site, maybe a marketing page or a blog. The only global state you have is maybe checking if a user is logged in or a theme switcher for light and dark mode. In this case, please do not over-engineer it. Don't bring in a huge library for something so simple. Just use what React gives you. React Context is more than enough for this job. No extra dependencies, no complexity. It's about using the right tool for the right job. So, what's the takeaway here? The React state management landscape in 2025 is healthier than it's ever been. The big secret is that there's no single best tool. It's all about finding the right tool for your project, your team, and your specific needs. So the final question is for you. Which one are you going to pick for your next project? Are you going with the battle-tested structure of Redux Toolkit, the elegant, modern simplicity of Zustand, or the built-in convenience of context? The choice is yours. Now go build something awesome.